Do you remember earlier this year when the world's richest man, Elon Musk, tried to buy himself an election in Wisconsin? Maybe you tried to block it out. I get it. But back in March, Musk donned a cheesehead and held a massive rally in Green Bay, a rally at which he announced he would be giving out two $1 million checks to random attendees. That was just two of the more than $20 million Musk and the groups he supports spent in that race. It wasn't the kind of race that normally attracts a ton of attention or outside spending. It was a state Supreme Court race. But as Elon Musk explained, the outcome of that race was really much bigger than just Wisconsin.
Most people aren't aware that there is this important election. Most people don't even know that there's an election at all. Or if they do, they aren't sure exactly when and where it is, and they aren't sure yet or they don't realize just how important it is. They think it's just, some kind of judicial thing that's not that important. But it actually, what they're doing, what's happening on Tuesday is a vote for which party controls the U.S. House of Representatives.
There he said it. I mean, ultimately, even after Musk and the groups he supports pumped more than $20 million into that Wisconsin state Supreme Court race, the candidate they supported still lost. But in an era where state laws may offer the last protection in defense of personal rights, ranging from abortion access to voting, and at a time when Trump and Republicans are trying to gerrymander every congressional map they can and cry fraud after any election they lose, the rulings of state Supreme Courts can have huge national implications. And so now we are seeing yet another conservative billionaire try to sway another state Supreme Court race, this time in Pennsylvania.
This fall, you can defend democracy and force an election for a new Supreme Court.
Okay, that was an ad from a new political group in Pennsylvania called Citizens for Term Limits. Now, the group uses buzzwords like democracy and term limits to make you think that voting no in Tuesday's election is the pro-democracy thing to do. They even sent out this mailer claiming that the Pennsylvania State Supreme Court gerrymandered the state's congressional districts. You can see it right there on the screen. But as the Philadelphia Inquirer points out, the gerrymandered map used in the mailer was not drawn by Pennsylvania's Supreme Court. It was drawn by Pennsylvania Republican state legislators and thrown out by the state Supreme Court. I mean, the reality here is that the Pennsylvania State Supreme Court has been protecting democracy, not only by rejecting that Republican gerrymandered map, but by rejecting Trump's attempts to overturn the results of the 2020 election after he lost the state. Now, just like the state Supreme Court race that Musk tried to sway in Wisconsin, the actual logistics of this race are pretty confusing. I mean, most people are not well versed on the ins and outs of judicial elections. We had to dive into it ourselves. And these ads are trying to take advantage of that confusion.
We must defend our democracy, and 3 no votes will force an election. It's time to term limit the court. Vote no, no, no.
Now, the reason that ad is telling voters to vote no 3 times is because there are 3 Pennsylvania Supreme Court justices on the ballot, but they aren't running against anyone. The vote is simply whether these 3 current justices should get to keep their seats or have to leave the court at the end of the year. And while it's true that every no vote would force an election, that election wouldn't be held until 2027. And Republicans in the legislature likely won't agree with Democratic Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro on any temporary replacements until then. So really what 3 no votes would do is take 3 liberal-leaning justices off the state Supreme Court and leave the court, and this is the key part, gridlocked with 2 conservative justices and 2 liberal justices, basically unable to act as a check against Republican anti-democracy efforts before or after the 2026 election. Now, like Elon Musk said in March, what's happening Tuesday is a vote for which party controls the U.S. House of Representatives. And while those ads are not the work of the world's richest man, they are connected to groups supported by Pennsylvania's richest man, billionaire Trump supporter Jeff Yass. And Yass and his wife donated more than $100 million to Trump and Republicans last year. Yass is one of the major shareholders in the TikTok's China-based parent company, and Trump is set to decide TikTok's fate in America any day now. Now, this weekend, we learned Yass was one of the donors to Trump's White House ballroom as well, that the White House failed to initially disclose. Surprise, surprise there. And now groups connected to him are pushing a misleading campaign to try to effectively bench Pennsylvania's state Supreme Court before next year's election. That's a lot, but it's important to follow. The state Supreme Court races in Pennsylvania on Tuesday, as I just outlined, could have major implications for the 2026 midterms and the 2028 election, which is likely why tonight Donald Trump put his thumb on the scale, urging his supporters in Pennsylvania to vote no, no, no on retaining those justices, citing their previous rulings against him during the 2020 election. If that isn't incredibly telling about the importance of this race, I don't know what is. Joining me now is Vice Chair of the Democratic National Committee and Democratic Pennsylvania State Representative Malcolm Kenyatta. You wear so many hats. Let me just start on the state Supreme Court elections in Pennsylvania, because we talked about it tonight because I think it's not getting enough. There's exciting governor's races. There's Prop 50, enough attention. Tell us about what's at stake in those elections this Tuesday.
Well, I just want to say that people should go back and watch your intro on this because you explained it so well, an issue that could be complicated. But we have simple retention races. And, in Pennsylvania's Constitution, we do these retention races for judges so that voters have a touch point to effectively say, have these judges been abiding by the rules of ethics? Have they been upholding the Constitution? And because these races are usually so sleepy, we've had very few, I think there's, one or two judges who've ever lost a retention race because there were ethical lapses that voters were responding to. But in this instance, you have Republicans, including Jeff Yass, who you mentioned, the biggest donor in Pennsylvania by a mile, who is spending millions of dollars trying to get rid of our 3 Supreme Court justices, not because they're not upholding the Constitution, but actually because they are upholding the Constitution and because they refuse to work for Donald Trump like so much of the federal judiciary.
And they're essentially trying to kind of freeze the state Supreme Court. This is why Trump tweeted about it or posted about it. All props, by the way, to Sam, one of our producers, who is a borderline expert now on the state Supreme Court races in Pennsylvania. But such an important thing to understand. Let me ask you.
Sam has joined a good club. He's joined a good club of us.
That's right. He's joining good. Let me ask you about kind of a broader question, because we started the show talking about the NBC poll that showed the enthusiasm that Democrats have a 7-point enthusiasm advantage. There's an 8-point preference for Democrats in the kind of generic ballot. As you're looking to Tuesday, as a vice chair of the DNC, what are you looking for? And what do you think what we've seen so far tells us about the electorate right now?
Well, I think what this new Democratic Party is doing, and what we have to do, is to make sure that our neighbors are the main characters of this story. I think what frustrates people about politics and what our nominees are doing so well this election cycle is being clear about what elections are about in the first place. It's not about putting an honorific in front of somebody's name. It's about people's lives and whether or not we're going to have leaders who wake up every day focused on the 3 words that I think animate the Democratic Party: our focus on making life better for working families and working people. And I will tell you, on Tuesday, what I'm looking forward to is being able to come back to talk to you to say, you know what, we retain our 3 justices on the Supreme Court who are going to stand up for the rule of law. That in New York, Zohran Mamdani is going to be the next mayor. In Virginia, Abigail Spanberger is going to be the next governor. And in New Jersey, Mikey Sherrill is going to be the next governor of New Jersey. And I think in all of those campaigns, what you see are elected leaders who recognize, as the reigning Super Bowl MVP of the Philadelphia Eagles says, they keep the main thing the main thing. And the main thing is people deserve a government that works for them, unlike what we're seeing at the federal level right now, where Donald Trump is literally having a Great Gatsby bash as millions of Americans lose access to food because he's illegally withholding the funds. And I think that's really the through line of this moment.
You can't even have scripted the absurdity of that Friday night event. Malcolm Kenyatta, keep the thing the thing. I love that. We need T-shirts. Thank you so much for joining me.